3 days of national mourning begin in Spain after flash floods kill at least 95 people. Authorities say many more are still missing.
Well, we've been seeing the pictures, Charlie, of the devastation in parts of Spain, and today and also tomorrow around Valencia, where we've had some of that flooding, we are looking at further rain, not as heavy as it has been, but rain nonetheless. And something else we're keeping a close eye on is what's happening in the Balearics during the course of Friday. We had some record-breaking rainfall totals earlier this week here, and tomorrow we could well see some further heavy rain and thunderstorms.
The death toll soars in Spain. At least 158 people are now known to have died in the flash floods in the country's worst flooding disaster in a generation. A tangle of cars and boats caught up in the torrent of water that swept through parts of Valencia. The military is helping search for the missing, with bodies still being found in cars. These satellite images of Valencia before and after the floods show just how much water swamped the land in a few hours. We'll be looking at how much climate change was to blame. At least 158 people are now known to have died, almost all of them in the Valencia region, after flash flooding hit parts of Spain on Tuesday. Spain's King Felipe held a minute's silence for the victims today, with many residents still being told to stay at home because of rising waters and the prospect of more rain. The Valencia region was devastated when a year's worth of rain fell in just a few hours, triggering flash floods, and swollen rivers in the mountains flowed down to the coast, forcing rivers to burst their banks, sweeping away bridges and roads. Our correspondent Bethany Bell has sent this report from Valencia.
Lifted to safety above the flooded fields, a one-year-old baby is rescued from an isolated house south of Valencia. Emergency teams are working around the clock. Hundreds of troops have been sent to help them in the search for the missing. This little town, Paiporta, was hit hard. Dozens of people were killed here, and bodies are still being found. There's mud everywhere. Flash floods swamped the town in minutes. Shops, homes and businesses have been devastated. In the ruins of his pharmacy, Miguel told me everyone here knows someone who's died.
Everybody has someone who lost someone, and it's like this. I feel worse than yesterday. I couldn't sleep, and at the end it's like a nightmare. It's a really big nightmare.
Camelia told us her husband narrowly escaped being swept away just outside their front door.
My husband was almost drowned. He was only saved by the neighbors.
Volunteers are arriving to help with the cleanup. People are struggling. In some places there's no water or electricity, and the internet's down.
The damage here is huge. Just look at what the force of the floodwaters has done to this railway line. Helicopters are flying overhead as people make their way through the mud. There's a sense of shock and deep sadness.
All across this region, you see cars and trucks swept away by the floods.
Big current and cars swimming. Grand apocalypse.
The authorities are warning that the emergency isn't over yet. People have been urged to stay at home. The government has promised to help, but many people here say they feel abandoned.
Well, let's talk to Bethany now, who's in the district of La Torre in Valencia. And Bethany, do we know anything about the number of people who are actually missing still?
It's very hard, officials say, to put a number on the people who are still missing. Earlier today, we saw bodies still being found in areas that have been badly hit by the flooding. And people here are walking around in a real state of shock, stunned. I saw one woman in tears, but most people are in a daze as they try to clear up their homes and businesses and shops which have all been devastated. And people here are asking questions. Why was it that the warnings came so very late? And there is a national mourning here for the victims, but everybody knows that it is very likely that the death toll will rise even further. There are many, many more people still missing.
Just extraordinary scenes there in Valencia. Bethany Bell, thank you. Well, our environment correspondent Matt McGrath has been looking at the role that climate change played in those flash floods on Tuesday.
Heavy storms that blow in from the Mediterranean are a regular occurrence in the eastern part of Spain in autumn and winter. But scientists believe our warming climate is now supercharging these natural events in a number of ways. The Mediterranean Sea has been exceptionally hot in recent months, up to 30 degrees Celsius in some places. All that extra heat has added extra energy, water vapour and instability to these big storms. Let's have a look at how those warmer waters have influenced these floods. This is an image of the Valencia region in Spain taken just a few weeks ago. Compare that to this image taken just after the floods. Scientists say that climate-driven droughts have dried out the soils, likely increasing the speed and the breadth of the rain runoff. From Europe to the US to Asia, many parts of the world have seen extremely heavy storms and dangerous floods this year. Scientists say that over the past 2 decades, our ongoing reliance on fossil fuels has made the very worst events more frequent and more lethal. But a rapid move away from coal, oil and gas could limit the deadly impact of these storms.
If we now really get our act together and stop burning fossil fuels, which we can because we have the knowledge and technology to go away quickly from fossil fuels, we will avoid these events from getting even worse in the future.
As well as climate change, other factors undoubtedly influence the scale of the destruction in Spain. Experts say that some homes have been built on dried up riverbeds or areas prone to flooding. Questions have been asked about the inability of modern infrastructure to cope with extreme downpours. That's because our roads, bridges and streets have been built to deal with last century's climate, not the one we're experiencing now. Matt McGrath, BBC News.